Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by Mone Myron.
Hello, folks. Welcome to a wonderful episode of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. And it's a very special episode today, people, because it is our Founders Day episode. Today is the episode where we celebrate the greatest holiday of the year, and we honor our founder, Nick McDaniel, the hardest working man in wrestling podcasting, the founder of our show, the world's greatest producer, Nick McDaniel, on the birth of our founder. This episode will come out, the last episode to come out before his birthday. Happy birthday, Nick.
Thank you, man. Actually, I hadn't really kind of thought about it that way, I guess. I had thought about it coming out before Christmas, but I hadn't thought specifically before my birthday. Yeah,
some of us celebrate certain holidays with our religions, and I celebrate Founders Day. I am hurt, though, that you don't like the new fuzzy muff for my microphone.
I don't like fuzzy muffs.
Yeah, well, I'm old school.
Now, listen, speaking of cleaning up some stuff, man, if you are cleaning up some stuff, check out our friends over at jmartinandcompany.com. They do some pressure washing, man. They'll do your driveway, your house, your gutters, window cleaning, commercial or residential, both, man, not just one. Crazy story. I had a work appointment that I was over in Ball Ground, and I was on my way back from that appointment on Monday. Yeah, on Monday. And guess what passed me going in the intersection, going through a red light, was a jmartinandcompany.com truck.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see who the driver was, but I actually couldn't help but just notice that, that wrap truck. I mean, that label, the logo and everything just slapped all over the side of that thing. It literally went right in front of me through a red light I was sitting at. And I was like, man, I wonder if that was our boy. But yeah, check them out, jmartinandcompany.com. Again, they're all over, man. Everywhere for all your pressure washing, whether it's your house, your driveway, gutters, windows, anything and everything. Give them look them up on their website at jmartinandcompany.com or jmartinandcompany.com, or check them out on Facebook. That's the easiest way I have found to get a hold of them. Just message them right there on Facebook. We appreciate them being along for the ride on the show, but listen, it's not the only thing we want to plug before we get rolling. Make sure, man, look, hey, check us out over on our YouTube channel or over on our Patreon page. YouTube.com is where we're at there. Of course, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. The handle's at Tapped Out Pod. You can like the page, subscribe to the page, turn your notifications on. Hell, become a member, get the show early and often. But as we always say, make sure you're checking out the Patreon page as well. I actually been, for a couple weeks in a row, I've been putting a list up, and I did give full credit to where that list come from. It's a lot of hard work going into that list, and I wanted to make sure that person got credited for that list as well. It's a bunch of indie shows, man, all over the country. It's a great list. Phil Stamper puts that list together, I was shared it out, man. That's a lot of work, man.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to have access to a list of indie shows, because I think people ask me all the time, people that aren't involved in wrestling go, well, actually a guy, I went to the therapy yesterday, and it's in the chiropractor's office. There was a guy sitting there on his laptop. He saw my Dr. Tom Pritchard shirt, was asking me a question. He goes, I wasn't aware that there were wrestling shows that ran that weren't WWE. I'm like, yeah, man, there's at any given weekend, there are 10 shows running all over Georgia. And he wasn't a wrestling fan or really wasn't interested, but I was starting to preach. And I'm like, God, I'm preaching to a guy about indie wrestling.
Yeah.
But there's shows everywhere, and they weren't aware of it.
There's lots of resources out there to find. Like I said, I'm going to try to every time I get that list, I'm going to try to kind of keep it updated by week. Phil puts the list out like weeks at a time, so I try to like copy and paste it by week to keep it more manageable. And look, don't forget our buddy, friend of the show, Rob Rod, over on YouTube. I mean, you can find him on Facebook as well. I mean, dude, he's putting out now. He's doing like Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, like all kinds of stuff, man. He's putting out a report constantly. So if you're looking for some good shows, I mean, there's a great place to start. I mean, it's always cool to have people like kind of plugging and help promoting these shows, because God knows some of them could use the help. I mean, that's a whole topic for another day, I'm sure. But look, man, we went into the mailbag last week, and then we got a bunch of them again. I really like the format. The more people that send them in, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Look, I jokingly say this all the time. Makes formatting the show so much easier.
Well, right now it's Christmas time, so we got a lot of crap going on. You know, I've been wrapping presents, God, I decorating trees, all this stuff, hanging lights in the front. You got one of them projectors on your house? I had to go out there and put one of them damn projectors on the house. It's like,
I
give me
don't do
another
any
seizure.
outside decorations.
Well, I mean, I ain't had no choice.
Yeah.
That's
I should surprise them and go out there and like I've got the net ones that go like around the bushes. I should just at least do those. Take those out there, wrap them around, and then just put those up at least.
Yeah.
I should.
My family too damn lazy. If I don't go out and pull that shit down, it's going to stay up until like Valentine's Day. So, y'all assholes.
Yeah. Well, look, we're all trying to be better this Christmas, but let's go straight into the Santa's sack is what I called this episode this week. Let's answer all of the questions that we got sent in. Lots of multiples on some of these questions. This one we got a ton of. This one, variations of. But let's go with Albert from Brentwood, Tennessee. What are your guys' thoughts on the Warner Bros Discovery WWE Raw situation?
Oh,
okay. Look, first of all, we were going to go over it. Like, there's a lot that could be discussed, but it's been discussed for a week at this point. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Eric Bischoff brought up a great point by saying, like, look, if Triple H was there, that's typically closing a deal. That's not usually trying to get a deal.
He's the handshaking guy, the picture taking guy, the hold the belt next to the guy. The picture guy, he's that guy that does this in the pictures.
Yeah.
To show that the deal is done.
Well, I mean, Mark Shapiro, CEO, of TKO, he's kind of the big, the heavy hand. Nick Khan's the money guy, because you kind of like, then okay, then what do they really need Triple? There's also some thought that he's kind of the surrogate for Vince, because you got to keep Vince out of the picture for a while, so he can be Vince's voice at the table without Vince being at the table. Maybe that's a thought process possibly as well. But look, I don't know if they let's start with I'm going to ask you. It's a pretty simple yes or no question. Do you think they signed with Warner Bros. Discovery, or that they go somewhere else?
I have been doing research on all this, and I have been looking at everything. And I found this huge story about Amazon is signing this company, and Amazon is negotiating with this company. And then I looked at ad rates, Nick. On Black Friday, Amazon got the first NFL deal. They showed a game, and the 30-second ad was $880,000 for an internet sports game, streaming game. Okay, so the business model has changed so much. It could go to Warner Brothers Discovery. It could go to the internet. I can't even speculate, because we can sit here every day and read a new story.
Yeah.
Okay, I peruse my news feed on Google, and I get a new story. Warner Brothers Discovery, and you tell me that there's a chance that they actually own 30% of AEW.
Yeah.
But if they own 30% of nothing, or 30% of a $34 million loss, nothing of nothing is nothing. You got to have nothing if you want to be with me. I don't know how to sing that song right enough to say, that's a horrible damn deal, ain't it?
No, so this was a topic of conversation last week, and I thought it was a great point, because the question becomes, why would they, if they own, which most people believe at this point, so by the way, it's an equity stake is the way to put it out there. If Warner Brothers Discovery owns an equity stake in AEW, why would they sign WWE? And the thought's simple. Like you said, if AEW's losing money, they ain't, the profits that they have equity stake in getting is zero. So 30% of zero is zero. The question would become, is the increased price they have to pay for WWE justifiable versus what they're paying? Because here's the crazy thing, and I know this sounds crazy. If Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't re-sign AEW and they end up having to go to another channel, now by the way, they overlap for a year, so what would they do with them then? Would they, if WWE came on board and they put them on, let's say TNT, TBS, one of the two, pick one, doesn't matter, and AEW, they get shuffled to like True TV, or because they're not going to Discovery. There's no way they're going to think about that. You want to talk about having a hard time selling ads on TBS TNT for that show? There's no freaking way they're going to sell them on Discovery.
Do they own the History Channel?
I don't think so. I think somebody else does.
Okay.
Maybe. No, I don't know. I'd have to look. It's so convoluted and messed up at this point. It's hard to remember.
That Oak Island shit's got to go.
But there are places they could put them. Then let's say hypothetically at the end of that year they sign with somebody else, but they get a lesser deal. It's worse. Your losses are worse because if you get less money. And by the way, I do 100% agree with, with John and Eric they discussed it on Strictly Business, and Conrad and him discussed it on 83 Weeks as well. It's a bad look. You remember because Impact was rolling, and when they lost Spike, and they ended up doing Destination America and and it kind of
Panda Energy. And then they got sold to Dixie Carter and them, and then
and then Anthem's strategy was different, and it just when they were on these failing, that's the dilemma. If AEW fails, here's I wanted to ask you, and I want to ask our listeners as well. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. If AEW fails, hypothetically, it could happen, right? And they get booed. No, back up. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to say it that way. If AEW loses its home on TNT, TBS, and gets downgraded, does just the confidence in a non-WWE product just basically evaporate? And look, this is not good at all. By the way, I don't want this in the least, because I think it's bad for wrestling overall. Because if companies go, look, nobody but WWE can do this and make money, long term and consistently and do anything with it. So we will never give another company an opportunity, because now we've seen Impact fail at it, and I'm beg to differ with that, but that's some of the perception. And then if AEW with all of that con money, because here's the thing, Tony Khan comes out and says, he's going to fight he's going to fight, he's going to keep the fight up. But look, here's the thing: if he's willing to just flush $30 million down the toilet every year for God knows how long, all right. If you're on True TV or you're on, whatever, maybe.
My question: can I ask a question real quick so I understand this better? Okay, if they sign WWE, and then AEW goes to another channel, and they still have a 30% stake, is that what that means?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they got WWE, and so
but it's equity stake, it's profits. So if they're still losing money, it doesn't matter. But
they could be making in a good situation. They could be making money on WWE and AEW.
Well, they would be paying for WWE, but you see what? But if AEW could right the ship, become a profitable company, they would still have 30% of the company, unless they. Would they theoretically go? Would they theoretically? Let's say this. Theoretically, they say, "Look, we don't want to anchor you for that 1 year that there's an overlap. We'll give up our 30% equity stake, but we're going to let you out of your contract early. Go find another home." Could that happen?
That's a reasonable deal.
Oh, I don't think it'll happen. They're going to be like, nah, because if you go off and make money, we helped get you there. We're getting our money back.
Well, they gave them a whole lot of TV time to work on a product that lost money hand over fist.
Look, but and it's one of the things I strongly suggest that people that don't listen to Strictly Business to listen to it, because Eric was pointing out, Ted Turner's explanation about wrestling didn't make him a ton of money, but it brought a lot of eyes to when he was building TBS. Well, it just brought eyes.
Well, that's a problem. That's a question. Let me ask you that question. Did they make any money for Warner Bros Discovery? Okay. Tony Khan may have lost money, but did they make money for Warner Bros Discovery? They're consistently one of the top programs on cable television, Nick. On Wednesday nights, they're one of the highest rated programs on cable television. Is that making Warner Bros Discovery money?
This was addressed as well. They brought up that sometimes apples aren't apples, or apples and aren't. It's sometimes just if 800,000 people, and I'm going to make some things up here just for this scenario. if 800,000 people were watching a rerun of Big Bang Theory and 800,000 people were watching Dynamite, you're going to make way more money on the ad revenue from that repeat of Big Bang Theory because of multiple things. It's a broader base. It's more family friendly, so you could put more commercials, so people that are going to be just comfortable advertising inside the show. So there's lots of layers to it. It's not really like, oh, because that's the other conversation that comes up is WWE, even when they have a bad week and Raw does 1.4 versus 800,000, is it easier to sell because they're more of a polished, overproduced product? And so we might complain about that, but an advertiser might go, yeah, but we don't have to worry about guy. And look, and I didn't have a problem with the segment in the grand scheme of things, but we don't have to worry about seeing a guy drink another guy's blood, or whatever on on a replay or something. I know that was on a pay-per-view. It wasn't on the TV, but there's been barbed wire, there's been blood everywhere.
Well, Moxley gets split open every time he gets in the ring, pretty much. And if somebody gets split open on a WE program, it's an accident.
Typically, yeah.
And if they get split open on a pay-per-view, they don't blow it all over their advertisable product.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens on a WE program is when Damian Priest gets broke up when R-Truth starts pulling shit in the ring. Yeah. Which was hilarious last night. That's the worst accidental thing that happens on WE television. So,
yeah. So kind of to answer Albert's question, do you think they sign Warner Bros Discovery, or do you think they still find another home somewhere else?
It's just going to depend on the finest contract, and I can't say everything because I don't understand the internet streaming thing. I see what Amazon's done with professional football. I see what Google and the Google has done with the NFL ticket. What is that NFL show they got?
It's on YouTube TV. Is where they have
TV.
It.
I have YouTube TV. Every time I turn on YouTube TV to try to watch my DVR thing, they try to get me to watch this NFL program that I don't want.
Plus the Sunday ticket. It's where you get all the games. Yeah, whether you live in the market or not, you can watch every game. So that's
not against that. I'm just not interested in it.
I mean, look, if there was there's no way to do it with college because there's too many hands in that pot, but. I honestly, at this point, smoke, there's fire. They've either done one of two things. They have closed this deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, or they jacked the interest up and they wanted this report out there. So I think they can milk Amazon for a big deal. So, that's just my take. I don't see USA, NBC Universal doing both shows again. It's just so expensive. So that's
the ad revenue to do two shows.
Yeah. So. But, speaking of the future of WWE, let's jump to the next question here. Oh, yeah. Derek from Merced, California. Do you guys believe MJF hasn't re-signed and could legit go to the WWE? Okay. Go ahead.
I studied on this. I read MJF quotes that he's going to wait till after their big show and then make his mind up and then look into things. Now, is that a work or is it a shoot? I don't know the answer to that question, Nick. I'm kind of stuck.
So here's the thing, because he basically came out and had to respond because the reports were that he had already re-signed, and they're just kind of milking the, free agency of 2024, all that kind of stuff. That's
Drama.
Just all a story. Yeah, they were just trying to hype it and get people to watch, see what happens or whatever. Listen, here's my take, because Cody's come out and said, yeah, I think someday he'll be here. Like Cody thinks he'll be WWE at some point. I think a lot of people do. And then he was like, they asked him about Punk being in WWE. He's like, I'm happy for him. If he's happy and, football has free agency and why can't we? Like, why can't we, why is it a big deal when one guy goes from one place? It's not a big deal when some guy, goes from one team to another in the NFL, really. It is, but it's not. It's business, right? And he's like, we're a business. The same thing. Let's go this. I would lean more. I don't think there's any way Tony Khan can let him go. If he hasn't re-signed him, it's going to cost him even more money than I thought.
Well, it's going to be worse than one bill Phil. This is going to be all the bills max. I don't have a catchy catchphrase for it.
Oh, I
But
got one for you. He's going to get a max contract.
Yeah,
like the
but the
NBA
thing
players.
is, they're not gonna be able to sign a TV deal if they lose him, Nick. This is gonna kill any AEW TV deal because this guy is carrying their product right now. Okay, he's totally carrying their product. They've got him in how many segments a week?
Yeah, no, he is the guy right now, in my opinion. You know, a lot of people are arguing like Swerve, and then some people are arguing. Look, hey, he's over. I'll get with that crowd. He's over. I'll anyway.
Show me a picture of Swerve and half those guys on NXT, and I couldn't point him out.
That's because you don't watch it. AEW, he is like really one of the guys right now. He really is. I give him much, respect for being what he's achieved up there. But they've got Danielson, they've got a bunch. They got a bunch. But I think Max is the future, and that's the problem. They have got to hold on him. And we may discuss a little bit. Yeah, we'll discuss it a little bit. There's another question that I think we'll touch on some more of this.
There's a lot of questions with them right now.
Yeah, but
Max is the keystone.
Yeah,
he's the keystone. He's the guy. I really think that they have to hinge their entire product around.
Yeah. Like I said, if he lets this go negotiate, if he hasn't resigned and he lets this go, it's going to cost him a ton of money to keep him, or I'm not sure he does. Because I mean, like the iron is so hot, but it'll come down to whether Max wants to be the guy, for the future in AEW, or does he want the opportunity to be, one of the top guys in WWE?
Well, this is Tony
And by
Khan.
the way, I know he loves Tony Khan, and I know he loves that company, but I also know that there's some people that were valuable to him that are no longer there.
Extremely. And this is Tony Khan's first real business decision, Nick.
I disagree. I completely disagree. I know we're going to discuss on this one later. There's a question that I saw later that we're going to hit on something that I completely disagree. That this is not his first. I think this is going to be his most dire. Because if he screws, if the ball gets dropped on this one, it's going to be worse. But look, speaking of worse, because we'll come back to that here in a minute when there's a question later on. But we're going to answer. Wayne from Toccoa, Georgia said, "How bad of a loss is Charlotte going down for the WWE?" Can I stun you with my answer real quick?
Like Stone Cold stunned me?
Yeah. Okay, it hurts. Don't get me wrong. It does. But I think it's worse for her than it is for the WWE right now. They're so loaded. They are so stacked with women. I'm going to say this. I still think Charlotte Flair is the best female wrestler on the planet.
Of all time, in my opinion. Of all time.
You say all time. I would have to think about that one a little bit. But for current, that's just my opinion, by the way. So how can I say it's bad, but it's not like, oh my God, the sky has fallen. What do we do? Think about it. She had just been gone now. That's the unfortunate thing. That's where I feel bad. She had all that time where she was gone, and then she comes back, she gets hurt, and she's gone again. And she's going to get Miss WrestleMania, and she's probably, she's not probably. She's going to probably go miss all the way through SummerSlam.
Yeah. So, I love Charlotte. I think Charlotte's one of the greatest of all time. I like I said, the greatest of all time. I think Charlotte is the one all the women aspire to be. Charlotte is a leader. Charlotte is somebody that WWE has built their entire women's program around. And not having her there, the worst thing I honestly think right now is it hurts morale and leadership. But they've got so many damn women, it's insane, Nick. Oh, she's SmackDown? And just look at the amount of women they've got on SmackDown. And look at it. If you just look at NXT, it's like loaded. It's like bam, 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 bam. I would not want to be a woman on the independent wrestling circuit right now, because NXT is choke full of amazing women wrestling talent.
Yeah.
The WWE roster is stacked full of amazing women wrestling talent. There's not a lot of places for them to go. AEW's got a huge amount of women wrestling for them right now. It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough to get in. I mean, does it hurt losing Charlotte? It hurt. You're right. It hurts her more because
I think it hurts her just because she had missed all of that time prior.
Yes.
And then she had her little window, and then she's gone again. So she's within a 2-year window. She's going to have missed a chunk of time. I mean, really significant. She's going to have missed more time than she wrestled. So let's put it that way in that window. So I think that's the bad part.
But look at the amount of giant women they have just on Monday night. There's a lot of hosses. There's a lot of airborne. Like what's the name of I don't know what to call the Japanese women's talent. I know the Japanese women talent have a special name. I can't remember it. But there's so many different unique niche talents now.
There's such a, and look, that's one of the strengths. They take different styles, but they still kind of bring it into a WWE style. So it's presented in a, very, there's the diehards love it, but the casuals can appreciate it too because of the process it's done. But look, Charlotte's going to be fine. I think in the long run, she'll be fine. And if I were a betting man, Myron, I think she's going to come back stronger, faster, better than ever. And she's still going to be the one to probably break Rick's record as far as holding the world championship the most time.
I hope so.
Yeah, I agree. Now, speaking of betting, if you were a betting man, look, football season's winding down. Everything's hot right now. A lot of fantasy football leagues are in the playoffs or coming to an end. So if you're trying to find that little extra something, especially when you get into the playoffs of the NFL, I need a little juice on the game. Check out our friends over at Prize Picks.
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words, Prize Picks. It's so easy.
Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the number. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Listen, because it's simple stuff, Myron. It's not very complicated when you're playing these. Just get on the app. We're talking about how many yards over, under, touchdowns over, under, where it's, if you're like, I don't like picking games and teams, you can get down into the nitty gritty and just do a couple things and hit you some big money on there. Prize Picks, like I said, I prefer the app, but you can use, of course, the website at prizepicks.com as well.
Oh, nice.
Look, speaking of your websites, Myron, I want to tell you, look, if you're looking to start a podcast, because I had somebody actually reaching out to me the other day and asking me, like, hey, man, I want to do a podcast. Where do we send them, Myron? Always.
Oh, every time. I sent my own brother here.
Yep.
Libsyn, the only place to go if you want to start a podcast.
Yep.
Why, Nick? Tell
because,
me why.
Listen, they make it easy for you. They do all the distribution, everything. It's so simple. Now, man, they've even got it where you can basically do the podcast inside just on the website, Libsyn.com. If you're looking to get started, look, you go over there, Libsyn.com, use the promo code TAPPED, sign up, and you get they're giving away up to 2 months for free just to try it out. I promise you, look, we tried one other place and it was the absolute worst nightmare of our lives. Ugh. We ran back as fast as we tried it out, thinking that it would be so much better. Libsyn.com, absolutely the best place to host your podcast. Podcast better at Libsyn.com.
Amen.
All right, Myron, let's dive right back into the sack.
This is my favorite question. This is the favorite question I got. Can I read this question?
Go ahead, man. You can read the next couple. I'm absolutely down. Yeah.
Harry from Midland, Texas asks, what is your take on the Tony Khan and Disco Inferno back and forth? Now, this is cool. So, what does Disco Inferno say, Nick?
Well, so basically, there was a tweet that went out, and it was something like, hey, what do you guys think of the shows? The AEW shows, Dynamite. He just simply put, like, they need a reset. That was his opinion.
Fair.
Tony Khan responds back, basically says he's irrelevant in the wrestling business and he's nothing but a parasite on the wrestling business. Things escalated a little bit. Disco responds and it's kind of like, well, it's kind of hard for you to call me irrelevant when you and all of these fans are responding to what I said. So clearly I'm inside the the ecosphere if I'm getting all this responses. And by the way, his response was, I actually contributed to wrestling. I actually wrestled. I didn't buy my way into the business and start my own company that way.
Disco is right and Tony is right.
Yeah.
Disco is a parasite. And I wish I could be a parasite on the wrestling business. I've tried for years to be a parasite on the wrestling business. If I could only make my living sucking off the wrestling, feeding off the wrestling business. Not if I could
keep it going. Just keep
if
going.
I could only make my living financially off of, that's what I was meaning to say.
Yeah.
If I off the wrestling business, I'd love just sitting here in my chair talking about the wrestling business on the internet. Yeah. Disco has it. Disco is the man. Now, do I agree with him all the time? Hell no. Hell, I think he's an asshole most of the time.
But listen, and I agree, by the way, fans have a right to kind of have their opinion as long as it's prefaced. I mean, how many times have we said it's our opinion? It's not stating facts, it's opinion. Disco has a right, because look, if a fan has a right to an opinion, which they do, then a guy who was in the business, and worked and was a talent and he's done a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes, has a right to his opinion as well. And I think, if my memory serves me correct, the initial post was, how do you feel about the AEW shows? And the response being, like they need a reset. That's the way he felt. So to be that super defensive and, and push back on it, I was kind of like...
Well, Tony is super defensive. He's always he's persecuted. I thought at first Tony was the age of my kids, because my kids are always saying they're persecuted. My daughter's like, oh, I've got it so bad and I'm persecuted. And then I turn out Tony Khan is 41 years old. He's 10 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not how a grown-ass man acts. I'm sorry. He's almost from the same generation as me, and I'm from that generation that had it so damn hard we used to work in coal mines for a living. Okay? That's the way it is. I don't know what is wrong with that man. Now, is Disco irrelevant? Disco probably has drawn more money than Tony Khan did. When you consider the massive loss that Tony Khan has taken.
Well, okay. Now, because here's the thing. If that's the argument, I'll say this. Tony Khan's not a draw because he doesn't work. He's not a wrestler. He's not. So he's never sold a ticket. Now, from a business standpoint, he's done some amazing things. All In, Wembley, all that kind of, so he's sold a lot of tickets.
You're
as far
not making money,
from the company. There was a period there when Disco was in WCW, they probably weren't making money either. So, I mean, they were losing money too. So, the bigger issue at hand is I just think that Tony Khan needs to focus more on, if you're catering to a diehard internet crowd, which they are, then you have to know that they're in the Twitter sphere, or whatever you want to call it, the X sphere. I love that Eric Bischoff and them, John, they call it Twix now. They're like, it used to be Twitter, now it's X. We'll call it Twix.
Whatever. Who cares?
But yeah, so it's like there's going to be negative. There's just going to be. In life in general, we can't get more than half of the people to agree to something.
Hell no.
So it's not
half most of the time.
Yeah. So I think it was a little overblown. By the way, kudos to Disco because he's doing his job, because his job is to drive people to listen to him and Conan's podcast. So he did that well.
I would like to see, as a study, if I could get Tony Khan to respond to me, just to see. You think about it. If I could get on to Twitter, because I don't like Twitter except to look at nudie women. That's the only reason I like it. If I were to get onto Twitter and start picking at Tony Khan, if I could get him to respond to me.
No desire. I mean, just the whole go back and forth. Here's the thing.
Well, scientifically, see if I can get him.
I don't have the time nor the energy to the negative back and forth with anybody. I think anybody that engages it, I'm like, you got.
I don't either. I don't normally do that, but this is Tony Khan. I would like to see if I could just pick it.
Tony Myron wants to rub you the wrong way. I want to actually. If you're hiring, I'll be more than happy to take that job.
I don't want. God, now we're talking about rubbing people in the wrestling business. This has
The
been
wrong way.
This has been the worst fucking topic we've ever had. I was so excited about it, and it has turned into the worst homoerotica you have ever published.
So, anywho,
Next!
let's keep it. Next question.
Oh no, I'm not talking about devastating blows. You
No.
can read this next question.
I will. Stewart from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. How devastating of a blow is it that losing Kenny Omega right now with all the other changes going on? This is the topic I told you, by the way. I knew I was going to come back to answer a question you asked earlier in the show.
Yes.
When you said MJF is like the first big, I'm like, no. Because the changes he's talking about is Tony Khan, for whatever, like personal reasons, Cody Rhodes leaves. Punk, massive departure. You fired him because he couldn't get along with the other kids in the back. Okay. Jade Cargill was the first long-term investment he lost. If that makes sense. I'm not saying she's bigger than MJF, but I'm saying she was the first.
I'm listening.
She's the one. Look, Punk, hear me out. In 5 years, Punk's probably not in WWE on television like as an active wrestler.
No.
Jade Cargill could be there for 10 years.
Yes.
Theoretically. I don't think she will be, by the way. I think she's going to be off acting, modeling, or whatever at that point. But you see where I'm going. Like, she has the potential. She could be there for 10, 15 years because she's young.
She could be the African-American Charlotte. I mean, she has...
No, she's going to be the first. She's going to be Jade Cargill. I think that's what I'm saying. She's going to be the first Jade Cargill. And I think she's got the long-term potential. That's why like MJF and her, to me, are more comparative as far as the long-term future of a loss. But look, so that's kind of where I went there. But you got to remember, we're also talking about backstage losses of Kevin Sullivan, Keith Mitchell from the production side. QT Marshall, I still to this day am telling everybody, is going to be one of the bigger losses for a bunch of reasons.
Mentorship.
Formatting shows, production. There's lots of, like you said, the mentorship of the guys who are on the roster and a growing class of people that you could bring in.
We're huge marks for QT. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. We got to hang around the Nightmare Factory when it was still the One Fall Power Factory. Okay. We got to be around QT when he was getting all this started. We got to just watch and learn and meet his wife, who is an absolute fitness just expert, dietary expert. We saw the way she's taken people and turned them into sculpted Greek gods.
Yeah.
Okay. We've seen the way these two and the way QT has absolutely changed people's lives and put people on rosters. Okay. The way he started this school that has revolutionized wrestling in Georgia just alone. Okay. Just absolutely revolutionized wrestling in Georgia. I don't think people understand what he was doing backstage. And on top of that, he's a phenomenal wrestler.
Yeah, I think people kind of understand it. It's the problem, like I said, now losing Cody, Punk, Jade Cargill, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Sullivan, QT Marshall, and now just Kenny being gone for who knows at this point. I don't think there's one, like, losing Kenny isn't like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I think, there's a great analogy used. It was, death by 1,000 cuts. This is what AEW needs to be worried about, because it's Cody, Punk, Jade, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Sullivan, QT Marshall, not all in that order as far as the releases go.
Kenny didn't
but if you
leave.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's not, I don't mean like they left the company, but I meant all of these losses happening, whether in one form or fashion, some quit, some were fired, some were not re-signed, whatever. If you lose MJF and, Kenny's out, think about it. What if Kenny's out for a year? We don't know. I don't know how long you're out with that.
Diverticulitis is bad shit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Look, you know how bad that is? It took Brock out for a while. Remember that? That's why Brock was gone for a while.
Yeah, that's
it's a bad thing. Point being, I don't think Kenny gone is like the end. It was like, it just doesn't help. It's another, it's just another paper cut that's, that you're going to bleed out with if you keep getting them.
Yeah. Did you see that story? And I put it in the notes. I put it last night late at like 2:00 because I was reading the news. Who CM Punk and Ace Steel picked as their attorney when all that.
I did see that. I did.
Stephen Panu. We met Stephen Panu a few years ago at WrestleCade, and such a nice guy. And he's so professional and just so genuine.
Yeah.
Man, such a nice guy.
Yep.
But I worry that the attrition will take its toll on AEW.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just, it's not one loss. It's a bunch of losses piled on top of each other.
Well, and then do you get that Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson? I see the end coming.
Look,
and
Sting's announced his last match. I don't know how long Adam Copeland's planning on hanging around, but then you're going to have Danielson's going to be leaving. He'll be in the back, but he's not going to be out front. So some of your big draws, are going to be gone at some point.
Well,
so
CJ Perry almost lost her damn finger
from a splinter.
I know she ain't main talent, but hell, who the hell got splinters on a big show? I'm sorry. Yeah. And with these people, if they're letting them work indie shows, they got to do something about that too. Because I just worry, I just worry. Lack of institutional control.
Well, listen, there's another big change. It's not somebody leaving. There's a big story of somebody coming back. Oh. And James from Frederick, Maryland said, who do you guys think is the big name that Impact is looking at signing and bringing in? Look, they've allocated a lot of money apparently for some signings. Look, they Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, they've re-signed. They signed Trent Seven and Kushida. Look, I get it, people. A lot of people are like, well, who the hell? They're not big name. But this is pieces, folks. This is pieces. This isn't the one. Of course, the names, Meltzer's throwing out Dolph Ziggler, Mustafa Ali, Matt Riddle. It's got to be a big one the way they're hyping it. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to have to be something. And we discussed the name that I think would be bigger than all of these, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
Who's that?
There was this tag team in WWE that left at the same time, and one of them wrestles in Impact by the name of Trinity Fatu, and her tag team partner that left was Sasha Banks, and she's finished up all her deals, and she's not going to work for AEW, and Impact has a deal with New Japan and all those other things where she was working. So you could see Sasha Banks at that show. That Impact was the Final Impact. That should be the name of that thing. I would call it Final Impact, where they become TNA. Where are we going to get? How are we going to get this pay-per-view? I got to see this pay-per-view.
It's going to be the same old. TNA Hard to Kill, I think is the name of it.
What night is it? What night?
It's in January. It's in January.
I hope it's not on the same night as a good indie show. But I really want to see
it. Probably will be.
God, I hate that shit.
No, actually, I think it's the weekend after the big ones that we were looking forward to.
Okay, good. Because I'm going to buy this because I want to see who comes. I really want to see. I want to see what's happening here. This makes me excited. This makes me want to buy an expensive Impact pay-per-view.
Here, on a side note, I wanted to ask you this because we talked about this a little bit. I think, and I wanted to see if you agree, I think Mercedes Moné versus, because look, the biggest name on the list is probably Dolph Ziggler, Matt Riddle, right? So if these are, let's say they were the two that we're talking about, I'm honestly like, if look, I'm giving Impact all the praise that they earn right now, but if you do this and you sign Mustafa Ali, he's supposed to be this game breaker, whatever. That is some of the most Dixie Carter bullshit that I would have seen since she was there.
Wow.
But
you are correct, sir.
I think there's more value to Mercedes Moné as well than Dolph Ziggler, than Matt Riddle. I think because I just think you get a better return of investment on your money.
Even if it's a short run, even if you bring her in for 3 months, it's still better than any of these people. And God, I wouldn't touch Matt Riddle with a 10-foot pole. It's not Matt Riddle smoking a little dope. Matt Riddle doing stupid ass shit. Matt Riddle like having babies with them porn chicks. Matt Riddle.
Hey, listen, look, you can have babies with whoever you want, and I don't judge. I'm just saying, look, if they don't drug test, they don't drug test for weed.
I don't care about weed.
Yeah.
I've smoked weed and I ain't done stupid shit like that. Okay. I ain't accused a guy at airport security of trying to touch my dick. It just ain't. Matt Riddle doing stupid stuff. It just ain't, something ain't right. Maybe he needs therapy. Something ain't right. If he needs to talk to me, I can help him get the kind of help he needs. But Matt Riddle is doing stupid stuff. I wouldn't trust him. He's getting like
play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
He's acting like Kurt Angle did back when Dixie Carter signed him. You know, it ain't good. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy.
My answer would be make it Mercedes.
Jeff Hardy?
No.
I would put my money. Yes, if you could get Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, that's where I would put my money. Bring her in there.
100%.
Yes.
So, but look, if I were also putting a little money, it's time to talk about our favorite segment of the show. You know, the Pro Wrestling Tees shirt of the week. This week, you know what? Look, we've been promoting Pro Wrestling Tees forever.
Yes.
And I was like, let me go find one of their shirts that I think is cool, that everybody would like. Look, it's you're not going to get it for Christmas, but you can still get it for your,
and you
for
can still
Christmas.
Get gift cards.
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling Tees gift cards by Christmas.
Yeah. I love the old Game Boy. I mean, look, we've been gamers for years. The original little Game Boy there, the design, the Pro Wrestling T-shirt. Check it out. Links in the show notes. Pro Wrestling Tees, like you said, man, get your gift cards, get your shirts. It's that hard to find wrestling fan that you're trying to find something for Christmas.
Yeah.
Here's a great one right there. The Game Boy Pro Wrestling T-shirt over at Pro Wrestling Tees. And look, don't just grab this one. Grab a bunch, man. Go find your favorite who has a store there, your local indie guy, support them, help them get a little bit of money. If you've ever heard, wrestlers that we've promoted here, go buy one of theirs, help support the guys 120%.
That money they get, that money goes to stuff like buying their kids Christmas presents. That money puts gas in their cars to get to the next indie show. It buys things for them.
Put your money where your mouth is and actually support them. That's the way I.
Yeah, exactly. People want to get on the internet and be like, I love somebody. Give them some money, damn it. We got to get this one on the Pro Wrestling Tees. This is the oldest living T-shirt design, and this is the last remaining oldest tapped out T-shirt. This shirt has more holes in it than my ex-wife. This shirt right here, I've been wearing this shirt for 9 years. We didn't even start the podcast till 8 years ago. Okay,
7, but yeah.
When I finish wearing
Myron
this
has
shirt,
holes in his memory.
yes, there's more holes in it than my memory. When we finish recording today, I'm going to mail this without washing it to the Wrestling Podcast Association Hall of Fame and Library so they can enshrine it for Founders Day.
But look, man, we always talk about putting your money where your mouth is. And, and it was funny. I was talking to somebody this weekend. We're going to completely go out of order timeline has here.
Yes.
We went to Southern States here in Swanee at the Monkey Wrench Brewery, easy for me to say. And somebody that was in the crowd is a friend of the show, Ted.
Yes.
We were talking, and it was like, he's like, he was there because he said, I've always complained about like there aren't really any shows in Gwinnett, and I felt almost obligated to be like, look, there's somebody running in Gwinnett. I'm gonna go, support it. Yeah, yes. To help, because that way you're not being a hypocrite saying, because then when I wish somebody run in Gwinnett, somebody runs in Gwinnett, and then you don't go.
Every time I've had a show running Gwinnett lately, I've been there. I've been to brewery shows, which I think brewery shows are the wave of the future. I don't know what it's like in your state, people, or your area of whatever state, or Georgia, but where we're at, brewery shows are the hot new thing. Sometimes they charge admission, sometimes they don't, depending on where you're at or what the brewery business model is. Sometimes they're outside, sometimes they're inside. But the thing is, breweries have all this space. They have all this space because they got all those tanks, and they have to have, they have to do everything in there. It's a different business than most other places. They're usually in industrial parks. They have all this space, and they're not always busy on like a Saturday night or something, and or a Sunday night, and they want to draw people in there.
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling is a very economical thing for a place to bring in. Wrestling, and so they get the space in there, and it's a lot of fun, and people drink beer.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it was a fun show. Look, I mean, we were there. I mean, it was awesome. Obviously, everybody's discussing what most people considered the show stealer, Bryce Cannon versus Chip Day. There's an old saying about Chip Day, and people need to be careful because I always say, when Chip's motivated and he's on fire, he's one of, if not the best. And I think it was we were halfway. Well, it wasn't even halfway. It's probably a quarter way through that match, and I think because we had gotten separated enough. Yeah, we were farther enough apart that we couldn't just we weren't talking. And I texted you and I said, "Motivated Chip," and you were like, "I saw your head nod."
Because Chip was on fire. I mean, Chip is so talented. Chip is amazingly talented. Chip is so good. And Bryce Cannon right now, I don't think anybody in the state of Georgia is as hot as Bryce Cannon is right now. He's got it.
Yeah.
There are people that have better gimmicks, and there are people that are doing, but there are people that are doing better wrestling stuff. But nobody's doing better gimmicks and better wrestling stuff than Bryce Cannon is right now. Okay?
I'll push back a little bit on that, but go ahead.
He's fused those two together to the point where he's elevated himself. And I think Bryce Cannon's in a great spot. I don't think we'll be seeing Bryce Cannon much longer in Georgia. I think we'll probably be seeing him making tryouts somewhere, or he's been making tryouts somewhere. So
I want to cut you here just for a second, because this is something that just when I was watching the match, and it kind of follows up what you're talking about. I sat there and I was watching, and I asked myself, I said, "Self, is Chip Day the measuring stick in Georgia now?"
Yeah.
There've been other, in the past, there were other guys, and a lot of those guys have moved on, and they're not. And I have one in my head that some people try to argue, you might try to argue. But I think, because here's the thing, this is why Chip Day is so valuable to promotions. Hey, we need a comedy match. Chip's hilarious. Go send him out there. Hey, we need we need a great technical match with somebody that we're bringing in. Send Chip out there. He can do that. He can dance with anybody. Hey, we really need just a brutal feud where it's going to be brawls, fighting, and it's going to be downright nasty. Mm-hmm. Hey, you can send Chip out there. He can do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Bring him in anywhere in the country. If you need a guy that can do anything.
So my point to that was, Chip's the measuring stick. So I'm going to stand by that statement.
Yeah.
The second part of that statement is, what does it say about Bryce Cannon then that he gets in there, hangs with Chip, gets the win, and actually won over some of that crowd in the process?
Yeah.
I was like, I think that speaks volumes. You find out about people by putting them in a ring with a guy like Chip Day, who's a measuring stick, to find out where they are. Yeah. Chip Day's like in Georgia, right? The Southeast. Remember they used to say with Waltman, they would send new wrestlers out with Sean Waltman, and he would kind of nod and be like, yeah, the guy can go. That's kind of where you are. Bryce Cannon, everybody needs to watch out. I'm with you. He's got the look. He's got the skills. He's got the mic work. I personally love the gimmick. I love the character development. What I love about the character development is it's funny, it's humorous, but when shit gets serious, he can go there too. And that's so lots of love for both of those guys in that match. you know, people were talking like, hey, match of the year, you know, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not
and
disagreeing with
I really don't blame Southern States if they want to be covetous about that match. If they don't want to show that match to everybody, because folks should have just came out and watched that. They knew where that damn match was. They knew that match was going to be good. That venue is a mile off 85.
Yeah.
The biggest road in Georgia. Okay? You should have come out and seen it if you wanted to see it.
Look, they're coming back in February. So give them a follow, check them out on social media, get the time, the date, and everything. And I'm just old and I forget. It's February 6th, 4th, something like that. I apologize in advance that I didn't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
We
have to write things down. We're old.
Yeah, we're old. And but look, they're coming back in February. Put it on your calendar. Like, give them a follow on social media. Yeah. I think the date's there. You could already find it out. Yeah. But then on Saturday, of course, Myron, you had some big stuff. I had Christmas parties that I had to attend, so I did not get to make it.
That's the best part about being unemployed and have a wife that works from home is we ain't got to do shit. But man, I got to go see a great show. You know, I love, and I'm just gonna do a whole thing on David Manders here. You know, David, he don't give two shits about measuring off against other promotions or reports or awards. I think the only thing David cares about is his fans, and he wants to put on the best show for his fans. He walks around during the shows and talks to his fans. He makes sure everything's okay. He cooperates with other promotions. He tries to put the best people backstage, the best people in the ring. You know, when we go to other shows and we see his fans at other shows, I'm like, oh, that's that woman who sits on the corner on the front row. Because I know where they at. That's how I know who they are, where they sit at David's shows. They'll go to the other shows, but they're always at Southern Fried. They're the loyal fans. He has loyal fans that go to all of his shows. And shouldn't that be the goal? He builds a loyal fan base that come to every single one of his shows. And he builds goodwill. And he don't, like I said, he doesn't give two shits if people want him to be, if he's promoter of the year. He don't give two shits if he gets these great reports or if somebody goes out there and says this or that about him. David just puts on shows and he's happy. And when I sit in the crowd, he always makes a point to say hello to me and talk to me. And I think he goes around and tries to talk to every fan in there, and people love him. And people want to make sure, you know, people like.
I have a running joke. There's people like Gary and David. There's a lot of people that we know that are in this, you know, that I always just tell people, like, if you don't like David Manders, you probably just don't know him.
Yeah. No, he's a gruff fellow, but then again, how many men our age aren't gruff fellows?
Well, the problem is, here's the thing. Okay. Nick's going to go to that area. He promises he never goes. I always like to say there's always going to be typically somebody like, you know, Gary and David. Most people in this world, what I've come to learn, I don't agree with them about politics. I don't agree with them with religion, blah, blah, blah. I don't like them. Like you can't like people that you don't agree with everything on. You know, that's kind of my thing. But anyway, sorry, I go back.
Yeah, I mean, they're great guys. Different guys. You would imagine they went to school together. That's the strangest thing.
And by the way, both went to school with a friend of my wife's.
Yeah. How weird is that? Small world. And then people don't realize you and my wife and your wife all went to school together. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of wound up in the whole jumped into the whole bunch accidentally. But Seasons Beatings, Nick, was a great show.
Yeah.
I had the best fun. Sonny Claus came out with Sal Renault. I guess Sal was supposed to be an elf.
Yeah.
The crowd could not have been happier. Wonderful show. Crystal and Kat came outside the ring. Crowd went wild. I mean, the crowd was super. The kids were just happy. Happy kids, happy fans. Rodney and Billy shouldn't have took a bump.
Yeah.
I wanted to get handouts.
What do you mean? They got knocked over. They got hit. They fell.
They can't do that stuff.
Man,
that's a hard floor. We got to hand
Stay out of the way. Stay out of the way, and you won't get knocked down.
I love the grapplers. I love anything the grapplers do. Mm-hmm. Seabolt is
Here's-
turning into a wonderful manager.
Here's my new game for Southern Fried I want to play, Myron.
That's that.
Every show, I want to take one match and I want to put it up on our YouTube channel for them.
Yeah.
To push that match. If you which match on that show do I have to put up on the when it comes out? Who do people have to see?
Well, see, the thing is, there were matches on the card, but some of the best stuff wasn't even matches. To me, the best things. Oh God, that's tough. That's tough because the Sunny Claus thing was probably one of my favorites.
All right, there it is. You answered the question. If that's you, if you because if you hem high but you still slip out with one, that's generally the right answer.
But then again, Hunter came out in the ring. Xavier came out to cause some problems, and then he chased Hunter to the back, and out comes Taji Makuja with his. But he had Merry Christmas written on his shirt. He started beating up Xavier, and then he gave him the miss. And then Hunter came out and they shaved his head with Clipper. How cool is that to see that in independent wrestling? And Tristan was out there, and then you got this whole thing where Judas and CT Keys beat up the Approved, and then CT's like, I want that belt, and then Judas held up all. Judas got 3 belts, and he held up all 3 of them and looked at CT and said, "Pick one."
Yeah.
Which one he wanted to chance out. Dude, I marked out so damn hard. And then on top of it, they set up this anarchy. They announced that there was going to be an anarchy show on January 6th, and they set that up with a damn cage, not a cage match, a ladder match, Nick. A ladder match. So next month, they're going to have anarchy on the 6th, and then Southern Fried 2 weeks later. Nick, I seen the card. They're already sold out front row seats. January 6th for anarchy. This card's insane. Insane. I haven't seen the Southern Honor card for next month. I haven't seen the Southern Fried card for next month. I've already seen the Anarchy card. Ladder match in that building, Judas and Nick Halen. Holy shit, for the Anarchy Championship. Wow.
Here's the thing. It'll probably go down one of the matches of the year for whatever poll you're voting in. I know there's multiples out there now. So there's multiple awards out there now. So that's good to hear. Fans are getting in on some of them. That's awesome. I love to hear that.
The Mason's Awards.
Look,
I don't know what Mason calls the awards. He came up and talked to me for a minute. Not the Scott Mason Awards, because those are overrated.
Yeah.
But he's going to be on the card. We get to see the overrated Scott Mason take on Jeter.
Good luck with that one. Yeah. But look, like I'm saying, man, it's this.
How can you be
that match? That ladder match could go down and be match of the year, but it'll happen January 6th, so everybody will have forgotten it by the end of the year.
Safe.
It won't matter.
If you wrestled this year, you're safe. I'm not going to any more shows this year. I mean, I'm worn
out.
No,
we're all done.
I'm
man.
done on shows for 2023.
Yeah. I apologize. Look, I know there's I think Georgia Championship Wrestling's running on Christmas. There's absolutely no way I could swing that one between Christmas, birth dates, and all that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna be so damn tired. I'm gonna be so damn tired.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So look, no shows this weekend. Next weekend we'll have the last show of the year. We will record next week. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. I wanted to put this out here to the listeners. Should we do our own, and I'm throwing air quotes around awards, we just picking ours. That's it. It's that simple. We're just picking ours. Like, hey, and it ain't like this is the such and such award. It's just like Nick and Myron's favorites, blank, insert whatever type thing. Or was it last year or the year before that we did the high school superlative awards? Remember those? For the end of the year, we did those. I thought those were really fun. Myron's looking at me like he has no recollection of it whatsoever.
You remember I lost 90% of my memory at this time last year. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
We're at Caesarversity.
Yeah. Tapped out
pod. Caesarversity.
Yeah. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. High school superlative awards, or let's Nick and Myron pick their favorites awards for the year. Send those to tappedoutpod@gmail.com. And who knows? Of course, you remember if you do vote, that show when we record it will air immediately on youtube.com. Of course, it will be on patreon.com as well. Tapped Out Pod is the handle on YouTube. Patreon, it's just search us by Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. And look, like the page, subscribe to the page, turn the notifications on, become a member, become a Patreon member, get those lists that we're putting out there. That's to the public, by the way, but you're getting the audio, the videos of the shows, the extras, the writings, all that good stuff. But look, we also understand there's lots of just old school podcast listeners out there. Spotify, Amazon, music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere and everywhere there is a podcast, that is where we are. I promise you, we are pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Thanks to our friends over at Libsyn.com for distributing us all of those places. Remember, if you're wanting to do a podcast, sign up at Libsyn.com. Promo code is TAPPED. Get up to a couple of months for free and get out there. Because guess what? Podcasts are sharing our opinions. That's what we do. Sharing your thoughts. Keep the questions coming. That's the big one, man. We appreciate it. It does make the show so much easier just answering your questions. And, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. All that good stuff. Celebrate with your family. Enjoy the fun. That's all I have this week, Myron. You got anything before we get out of here?
No, I'm just happy for another year of podcasting. I'm happy for independent wrestling. I'm happy for wrestling in general. I appreciate all the gifts everyone has given me this year. It's been a tough year, and I've hidden a lot of the shit I've been through in independent wrestling and wrestling. And I thank you, people. I thank every one of you.
Yep. Well, if anything else?
Nope.
What's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.